My name is Anna, and until that night, I believed I understood the people closest to me. The night I got married, everything felt carefully aligned, like a scene that had already been lived somewhere else and was now simply repeating itself for me. The lights were soft, the music low enough to let conversations breathe, and every face around me carried that polite, measured joy reserved for weddings. I remember thinking it was beautiful. Almost too beautiful. I watched my husband from across the room, my husband. The words still felt new, unfamiliar in my mind. He stood near the terrace doors, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass he barely touched. Someone was speaking to him, but his attention drifted past them, somewhere over their shoulder. When our eyes met, he smiled. It was a perfect smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "You look like you're somewhere else," I said when I finally reached him. "I'm here," he replied, almost too quickly. A pause. Then, softer, right where I should be. I nodded, but something in the way he said it stayed with me. Not wrong. Just, rehearsed. We left just after midnight. The guests were still laughing behind us, the music fading as we stepped into the cooler night air. My heels clicked against the stone path, each step echoing more loudly than it should have. "I don't want this night to end," I told him. "It won't," he said. He didn't look at me when he said it. He was focused on the car, unlocking it, his movements precise. Controlled. For a second, his hand lingered on the door handle, as if he was waiting. For what? I almost asked. But I didn't. I got in instead. The road was empty. The kind of empty that feels unnatural, like the city had stepped aside just for us. Streetlights passed in slow intervals, their glow sliding across his face, revealing and hiding the tension in his jaw. I adjusted my dress. It felt tighter now. Harder to breathe. "Can you open the window?" I asked. No answer. I turned to him. "It's too warm." "It's fine," he said. Short. Flat. I studied him for a moment. His hands were firm on the wheel, his eyes fixed ahead, unblinking. "Are you okay?" "Of course." Another pause. Too long. Then headlights appeared in the distance. At first, they were just lights. Far away. Normal. Then they grew larger. Brighter. Too fast. I felt it before I understood it. Something tightening in my chest. "Wait," I started. The impact cut through everything. A violent, crushing sound, metal folding into itself, glass exploding into fragments that glittered for a fraction of a second before disappearing into chaos. My body snapped forward, the seatbelt biting into my chest, stealing the air from my lungs. Then silence. Not complete silence. A ringing. High and constant. I couldn't feel my hands at first. Then slowly, sensation returned, sharp, scattered, wrong. I turned my head. He was still. Too still. "Hey," I said. My voice sounded distant, like it was traveling through water. No response. I reached for him. My fingers brushed his arm. Warm. But there was no resistance. No movement. "Hey." Nothing. Outside, voices began to form. Shouting. Running footsteps. A car door slamming somewhere far away. Far away. "There was another car," I whispered, though no one was listening yet. "He hit us." But when I forced my eyes toward the road behind us, there was nothing. No lights. No engine. No driver. Just darkness stretching out, uninterrupted. A face appeared at the broken window. "Don't move," a man said. "Where is he?" I asked. "Who?" "The driver." The man hesitated. "We didn't see anyone," he said. "That's not possible," I replied. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I really seen it? Or just the lights? The ambulance arrived in flashes of blue and red. Hands pulled at the door, metal groaned, someone counted down before forcing it open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the sharp smell of smoke. "My husband," I said as they reached for me. "He's still inside." "We've got him," someone answered. Too calm. Too practiced. I stopped resisting. They pulled me out first. The night air hit my skin, colder than it should have been. I shivered, though I wasn't sure if it was from the cold. Or something else. They brought him out moments later. I watched. His head tilted at an angle that didn't make sense. His face pale beneath streaks of red. His eyes closed, as if he had simply decided to rest. I didn't scream. I just stood there. In the hospital, everything blurred into controlled movement. Questions repeated in different voices. Bright lights overhead. The sound of fabric being cut as someone removed what was left of my dress. "Do you remember what happened?" a doctor asked. "Yes." "And your husband?" I looked at him. The doctor held my gaze for a second too long, then lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry." That was all. I nodded. Because there was nothing else to do. The police arrived later. A woman with a steady voice and careful words. "Did you see the other driver?" "No." "Did your husband say anything unusual before the crash?" I thought about it. "No." "Was anyone following you?" "I don't think so." She wrote everything down. Every detail. Every hesitation. "There were no skid marks," she said quietly. "And no sign of another vehicle." "But there was one," I insisted. She met my eyes. "I believe you," she said. "But we need evidence." Evidence. Such a simple word. They discharged me in the morning. My injury sounded small when listed aloud. Bruised ribs. Concussion. Cuts. Nothing fatal. I sat in the hospital corridor, my phone in my hands. Messages filled the screen, photos, congratulations, laughter frozen in images from just hours before. No one knew yet. I didn't know how to tell them. In the end, I didn't. I just stood up and walked out. The world outside was unchanged. People moved, cars passed, someone laughed in the distance. It all continued as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just stopped existing. I went home alone. His jacket was still on the chair. His watch on the table. A half-empty glass of champagne exactly where he had left it. I didn't touch anything. I just stood there. Listening to the silence. A week later, I realized it wasn't an accident that I didn't sleep that first night back home. I tried. I lay in bed, still in borrowed clothes from the hospital, staring at the ceiling that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Every small sound seemed louder than it should have been, the hum of the refrigerator, the pipes in the walls, a car passing somewhere far outside. I kept expecting to hear his keys. That quiet metallic sound when he would come home late. It never came. By morning, the apartment felt colder. Not physically. Something else. Like the air had settled differently, heavier in the corners. I got up slowly. Every movement reminded me of the crash, my ribs aching, my head dull and heavy. I moved through the apartment like I was visiting someone else's life. His shoes were still by the door. One slightly ahead of the other, like he had kicked them off in a hurry the day before the wedding. I didn't move them. I couldn't. The first call came around 9 a.m. His mother. I watched her name on the screen for a long time before answering. "Anna?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. "Yes." A pause. "I heard," she said. Of course she had. "I'm so sorry," I replied automatically, though the words felt misplaced. Like I was apologizing for something I didn't fully understand yet. Another pause. We'll need to arrange the funeral, she said. Straight to it. No questions. No crying. Just arrangements. Okay, I said. We'll handle most of it, she added. You should rest. It sounded like a dismissal. Or maybe protection. I couldn't tell. The call ended quickly. I sat there for a while after, staring at nothing. Something about her tone stayed with me. Not grief. Not shock. Something controlled. The next few days passed in fragments. People came. Neighbors. Friends. Distant relatives I barely recognized. They brought food I didn't eat and spoke in lowered voices, like they were afraid to disturb something fragile. I still can't believe it, one of his cousins said, standing too close to the window. It was so sudden, someone else added. He was such a careful driver. That word again. Careful. I remembered his hands on the wheel. Too steady. Too focused. As if he had been expecting something. The funeral was 3 days later. The sky was gray but not dramatic. No rain. Just a flat, colorless ceiling above us. I stood beside the coffin, my hands clasped in front of me, feeling every pair of eyes in the room without actually looking at anyone. He looked different. Not just because of death. There was something arranged about him. Carefully restored. Like they had tried to erase the violence of what happened. But I knew. I had seen it. His mother stood across from me. Dressed in black, perfectly composed. Her posture straight, her expression neutral. When our eyes met, she gave a small nod. Not comfort. Acknowledgement. As if we were both part of something formal. Expected. People came up to me one by one. I'm so sorry for your loss. He loved you so much. You have to stay strong. I nodded every time. I said thank you. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of them. At some point, his brother approached me. I had only met him a few times before the wedding. He lived in another city. Quiet. Observant. I'm sorry, he said. Thank you. He hesitated. Then leaned slightly closer. Did he say anything to you that night? The question caught me off guard. No, I said. He studied my face for a second longer than necessary. Then nodded. All right. He stepped back. That was it. But something about the way he asked it, it didn't feel like a casual question. It felt specific. Later, during the reception, I noticed small things. His mother speaking quietly with a man I didn't recognize. They stopped talking when I looked at them. His brother standing alone near the exit, checking his phone repeatedly, his expression tight. And then there was his friend, Mark. He had been at the wedding. Loud. Laughing. The kind of person who filled space easily. Now he was quiet. Too quiet. When I approached him, he forced a smile. Hey, he said. Hey. A pause stretched between us. You okay? He asked. I don't know, I answered honestly. He nodded, but his eyes drifted past me. Like he didn't want to hold eye contact. Crazy, right? He said suddenly. Just, bad luck. Bad luck. I felt something tighten inside me. Yeah, I said slowly. Just an accident. He said it quickly. Too quickly. Then he excused himself. I watched him leave the room, his steps faster than necessary. That night, after everyone was gone, I finally let myself sit in the silence again. The apartment felt even emptier now. As if the funeral had confirmed something irreversible. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing in particular. Then my eyes landed on his phone. It was still there. On the counter. I hadn't touched it since the hospital. For some reason, I had assumed someone would take it. The police. His family. But no one had. It just stayed. Like everything else. I stood up slowly and walked over to it. For a moment, I just looked at it. Then I picked it up. The screen lit up. Locked. Of course. I hesitated. Then I tried the simplest thing. His birthday. Wrong. I tried mine. Wrong. A small, irrational frustration rose in my chest. Why wouldn't I know this? I was his wife. The word felt strange again. Wife. I stared at the screen. Then I remembered something. The way he had hesitated before getting into the car. The way he had said, "It won't." Like he already knew something. I entered the date of our wedding. The phone unlocked. I froze. A small, quiet realization settled over me. Why would that be the password? Why that exact moment? I didn't understand it yet. But it felt intentional. I opened his messages. At first, nothing stood out. Normal conversations. Work. Friends. Plans. Then I saw a thread without a name. Just a number. No saved contact. My fingers hesitated for a second before opening it. The last message was sent just minutes before we left the wedding. Everything is ready. Below it, his reply. Tonight. My breath slowed. There were more messages above. Short. Direct. No delays. She won't suspect anything. Make sure it looks clean. I felt a cold wave move through my chest. She won't suspect anything. Was that me? I kept scrolling. A final message. From the unknown number. Driver knows what to do. I stared at the words. Driver. My hand started to shake slightly. The room felt quieter than before. Too quiet. I locked the phone and set it back down carefully, like it might break. Or like it might break something in me. For a long time, I didn't move. I just stood there. Thinking about the road. The headlights. The impact. And the empty darkness behind us. It wasn't just an accident. I knew that now. But I didn't understand why. Or who. Or how far it went. My phone rang suddenly, cutting through the silence. I flinched. Unknown number. For a second, I considered ignoring it. Then I answered. Hello? A pause. Then a voice. Low. Male. You need to check his phone. My grip tightened. I already did, I said carefully. Another pause. Then the voice replied. Know what? That it wasn't random. My heart started beating faster. Who is this? Silence. Then. Be careful who you trust. The line went dead. I stood there, the phone still pressed to my ear. Listening. To nothing. And for the first time since the crash, I felt something stronger than grief. Fear that I didn't call the police. That was the first decision I made without fully understanding why. I just knew that if what I saw in those messages was real, if it meant what I thought it meant, then going to the police immediately would close something before I even understood it. And I needed to understand it. Completely. The next morning, the apartment felt different again. Not just empty now, but watched. That was the closest word I could find. Like something had shifted, and I was no longer just grieving, I was part of something I hadn't agreed to. I moved quietly. Even though I was alone. I picked up his phone again, this time more carefully, like I expected it to react to me. I opened the messages with the unknown number and read them again, slower. Everything is ready. Tonight. She won't suspect anything. Make sure it looks clean. Driver knows what to do. Each line felt colder the second time. More deliberate. Less like coincidence. I checked the number. No name. No profile picture. Just digits. I copied it into my own phone, but there were no results. No account linked to it. Nothing. Clean. That word again. I moved to the call log. Several missed calls from people I recognized. Friends. His mother. Work. And then, near the bottom, one outgoing call. That same number. Just before we left the wedding. Duration, 12 seconds. 12 seconds. I tried to imagine what could be said in 12 seconds. Enough to confirm something. Not enough to explain. I put the phone down and stepped back, pressing my hand lightly against my ribs as a dull pain reminded me of the crash. It grounded me for a second. I needed something more concrete. Something physical. I went to his desk. It was always organized. Too organized. Everything in its place, nothing unnecessary. At the time, I thought it meant he was disciplined. Now, it felt like control. I opened the first drawer. Documents. Bills. Contracts. Nothing unusual. The second drawer. Empty. That was strange. Not messy empty. Intentionally empty. I frowned slightly and ran my fingers along the inside edge. The wood felt smooth, but something about the back panel seemed off. I pressed lightly. Nothing. Then harder. A soft click. The panel shifted just enough to reveal a narrow space behind it. I stopped breathing for a moment. Then slowly pulled it open. Inside, there was a small stack of papers. Folded neatly. And an envelope. No labels. No markings. I took them out and placed them on the desk. My hands were steady, but I could feel something building underneath that steadiness. Not panic. Not yet. Something sharper. I opened the envelope first. Cash. A lot of it. More than I had ever seen him carry. It didn't make sense. He never used cash. Ever. I set it aside and unfolded the papers. The first one looked like an insurance document. My name. His name. The date. I scanned quickly. Then stopped. My eyes went back to the number. The payout. It was high. Too high. My throat tightened slightly. I flipped to the next page. Signature. His. Date, 2 weeks before the wedding. I stared at it. 2 weeks. Before. The next document was stranger. A printed conversation. Email. No sender name, just an address that didn't look familiar. Short lines. Like instructions. Timing confirmed. After midnight is ideal. Minimal traffic. Ensure impact angle is consistent. I felt my stomach turn slightly. Impact angle. That wasn't random. That wasn't an accident. That was planning. I dropped the paper onto the desk. For a moment, the room felt too small. Too quiet. I walked to the window and opened it, letting cold air rush in. It hit my face sharply, but it helped. It made everything feel more real. I needed to think. Not react. Think. If this was real, if he had been involved in planning something like this, then why was he dead? That question didn't fit. Unless something had gone wrong. Or someone had changed the plan. My mind went back to the message. Driver knows what to do. Driver. Who was the driver? I went back to the desk and looked through the rest of the papers. There was one more sheet. A name. Not fully written. Just a first name and a number next to it. I read it twice. Then a third time. It didn't mean anything to me. Not yet. But something about it felt close. Too close. Like I had seen it before. I took a photo of it with my phone. Then I did something I hadn't expected to do. I called Mark. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey," he said. His voice was cautious. "Hi," I replied. A pause. "You okay?" he asked. The same question as before. "I need to ask you something." Another pause. "Okay. Did my husband owe anyone money?" Silence. Too long. "Why would you ask that?" he said finally. "Just answer me." "I don't think so," he replied. "You don't think so?" "Not no." "Did he have any problems recently?" "Anna," he said, his tone shifting slightly, "this isn't something you should be worrying about right now." That was the wrong answer. "I found something," I said. That got his attention. "What do you mean?" "Messages. Documents. It doesn't look like an accident." Silence again. Then a quiet exhale. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice, "you need to stop looking into this." "Why?" "Because you don't understand what you're getting into." My chest tightened. "Then explain it to me." "I can't." "Or you won't?" Another pause. Then. "Just leave it alone, okay?" The line went dead. I stared at my phone. He had hung up. Not hesitated. Not argued. Just ended it. That told me more than anything he could have said. I wasn't supposed to know about any of this. And now I did. I went back to the desk and looked at the name again. The partial name. The number. I zoomed in on the photo I had taken. Something clicked. Not a full realization. Just a connection. A memory. A voice. Soft. Familiar. Too familiar. I sat down slowly. "No," I whispered. It didn't make sense. It couldn't. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. The way the name was written. The way the number was formatted. I had seen it before. Not in his life. In mine. My heart started beating faster. I opened my contacts. Scrolled. Stopped. There it was. The same number. Saved under a name I trusted. A name I had never questioned. My fingers hovered over the screen. I didn't want to press it. Because once I did, it would become real. I pressed it anyway. The call started ringing. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then it connected. "Hey," the voice said. Warm. Familiar. My throat went dry. "Hi," I replied quietly. A pause. "Is everything okay?" she asked. I closed my eyes for a second. Then opened them. And said the name. "Why is your number in his messages?" There was a pause on the line. Not confusion. Not surprise. Just silence. The kind that stretches long enough to confirm something before a single word is spoken. "Anna," she said finally. Her voice sounded the same as always. Soft. Familiar. Controlled. Too controlled. "Why is your number in his messages?" I repeated. I kept my tone flat. Steady. I didn't want her to hear anything else. Another pause. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. It came out too quickly. Too clean. I looked down at the screen, at her name, at the number I had dialed so many times before without thinking. Now it felt like something else entirely. "I saw everything," I said. "That's not possible." That answer, it slipped. Not denial. Correction. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I have his phone," I continued. Messages. Calls. Documents. Silence again. Then a quiet exhale. When she spoke next, her voice had changed. Less warmth. More distance. You shouldn't have looked. I didn't respond right away. I just listened. Because in that moment, I realized something very clearly. She wasn't going to pretend anymore. Tell me the truth, I said. Not over the phone, she replied. My fingers tightened slightly around the device. Then where? Another pause. Come to me, she said. No. The word came out immediately. Too quickly. I hadn't planned it. I'm not going anywhere, I added. A shift on her end. Subtle. Then I'll come to you. The line went dead before I could answer. I lowered the phone slowly. My hand didn't shake. That surprised me. I thought it would. Instead, everything felt focused. Like something inside me had narrowed down to a single point. Waiting. I didn't move for a while. Then I stood up and walked to the door. Locked it. Checked the windows. Closed the curtains. The apartment felt smaller again. But safer. Maybe. I didn't know anymore. Time passed slowly after that. Every sound made me turn my head. Footsteps in the hallway. A car stopping outside. Voices behind the walls. At some point, I realized I was standing in the middle of the room, not sitting, not resting. Just waiting. Then the knock came. Soft. Measured. 3 times. I didn't go to the door immediately. I stood there, listening. Another knock. Anna, her voice called from the other side. Quiet. Familiar. I walked toward the door slowly. Each step deliberate. I looked through the peephole. She was there. My sister. Standing exactly the way she always did, shoulders relaxed, hands at her sides, expression calm. Like this was a normal visit. Like nothing had changed. I unlocked the door. Opened it. We looked at each other for a moment. Up close, I could see something new. Not fear. Not guilt. Something settled. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She walked in without hesitation. Her eyes moved around the apartment briefly, taking everything in, the untouched glass on the table, his jacket, the stillness. You didn't change anything, she said. No. A pause. She nodded slightly. Then turned to face me. So, she said quietly. No apology. No explanation. Just that. So, I repeated. We stood there for a few seconds. Then I walked past her and sat down. I didn't invite her to sit. She did anyway. Across from me. The same place she had sat just a few days ago, smiling, talking about the wedding, adjusting my dress. I looked at her. Really looked. Trying to find something familiar. Something that still made sense. I couldn't. Start talking, I said. She didn't answer immediately. She leaned back slightly, her fingers resting loosely in her lap. Then. You weren't supposed to find out like this. There it was again. Not denial. Not even regret. Just timing. Find out what? I asked, though I already knew. She held my gaze. About the plan. The word felt heavy. Solid. Real. And what exactly was the plan? I asked. My voice didn't change. Inside, something tightened. She exhaled slowly. He took out the insurance policy, she said. A large one. I know. Her eyes flickered slightly. He came to me, she continued. Said he needed help. Said it would be simple. I didn't interrupt. I wanted to hear how far she would go. He wanted to stage an accident, she said. Make it look real. Quick. Clean. Clean. That word again. And I was supposed to die, I said. She didn't answer right away. Then. Yes. The word landed quietly. But it stayed. I nodded once. Slowly. Why you? I asked. She looked at me carefully. Because I knew someone who could do it. My chest tightened. The driver. She nodded. Silence filled the room. So you agreed, I said. Yes. No hesitation. No attempt to soften it. Just truth. Cold. Direct. Why? She looked away for the first time. Toward the window. Because I needed the money. The simplicity of it made it worse. Not revenge. Not anger. Money. I let that sit for a moment. Then. What happened? Her gaze returned to mine. This is the part you don't know, she said. I felt my pulse slow. Not faster. Slower. Like everything inside me was preparing. He changed the plan, she said. A small pause. At the last minute. My fingers pressed lightly into my palms. How? He didn't want to die, she said quietly. The room felt colder. So he decided, I began. To reverse it, she finished. Silence. I stared at her. Waiting. For what? I asked. Her voice dropped slightly. He made a deal with the driver. My breath caught. What kind of deal? She didn't answer immediately. Then. He told him to hit the car. A pause. But not your side. I didn't move. Didn't blink. He wanted me gone, she continued. Not you. The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did. Slowly. Like something assembling itself in my mind piece by piece. You were supposed to be in the car, I said. Yes. But you weren't. No. Why? Another pause. For the first time, I saw something shift in her expression. Not fear. Something closer to anger. Because I found out what he was planning, she said. And? I didn't show up. Silence. So he went through with it anyway, I said. Yes. My throat felt dry. And the driver? She looked at me steadily. He followed the last instructions he got. The last instructions. From my husband. I leaned back slightly. The room felt distant. Muted. So he killed him, I said. Yes. The word echoed in the space between us. No emotion. No weight in her voice. Just fact. And you? I asked. What about me? You set it up. She didn't deny it. I introduced them, she said. That's all it took. I looked at her for a long moment. My sister. The person I trusted without thinking. The person who had stood next to me at the wedding. Smiling. Watching. Knowing. And the driver, I said slowly. Who is he? This time, she hesitated. Just for a second. Then. You don't want to know. I leaned forward slightly. Yes, I said quietly. I do. She studied me. Then nodded once. All right. A pause. Then she said the name. And everything inside me went completely still. For a moment, I didn't understand what she had said. Not because I didn't hear it. But because my mind refused to place it into anything real. The name just hovered there. Familiar. Too familiar. No, I said quietly. Not loud. Not emotional. Just a simple rejection of something that didn't fit. She didn't argue. Didn't repeat it. She just watched me. And that made it worse. Because it meant she was sure. You're lying, I added. But even as I said it, something inside me was already shifting. Fragments of memory. Small, disconnected things. Late calls. Missed explanations. The way certain conversations would stop when I entered the room. The way my husband had once said, almost casually, "You trust people too easily." At the time, I thought it was a compliment. Now it felt like a warning. "He's been around longer than you think," she said quietly. I looked at her. My throat felt tight. "How long?" She didn't answer immediately. "Before the wedding," she said. "Before you." That didn't make sense. "Before me?" I repeated. She nodded. They knew each other. The room felt smaller again. My husband. The driver. Connected. Not random. Not chosen. Planned. Carefully. "Who is he?" I asked again. This time, slower. More deliberate. She leaned back slightly. Like she was giving the word space. "He worked with him," she said. "A few years ago." A pause. Then disappeared. Disappeared. The word carried weight. "Why him?" I asked. "Because he doesn't exist on paper anymore," she replied. "No records. No ties. No consequences." I felt something cold settle deeper inside me. "And now?" She looked at me steadily. "Now he does what he's told." A silence followed that. Long. Heavy. I stood up slowly. My body felt lighter than it should have. Like I was moving without fully being inside it. "And who's telling him now?" I asked. She didn't answer. That was enough. I let out a slow breath. "So it's not over," I said. Not a question. A statement. She looked down briefly, then back at me. "No," she said. That word stayed in the air. Unmoving. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. This time, she hesitated. A real hesitation. "Because you were never supposed to survive," she said. The honesty of it didn't shock me anymore. It just confirmed things. "And now I did," I said. "Yes." "And now what?" She looked at me carefully. Like she was measuring something. "Now you're part of it." A quiet pressure built in my chest. I didn't like the way that sounded. "I'm not part of anything," I said. Her expression didn't change. "You already are." Silence. I shook my head slightly. "No." She leaned forward just a little. "You know about the insurance." I didn't respond. "You know about the plan." Still nothing. "You know about the driver." Her voice dropped. "And now they know that you know." That landed differently. Sharper. More immediate. "Who is they?" I asked. Another pause. Then. "The person who organized everything." The room felt colder again. "There's someone else," I said. Yes. Of course there was. There's always someone else. "Who?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. And this time, I saw it. Something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Very small. Very controlled. But there. "That's not something you say out loud," she said. My pulse slowed again. That same strange calm. "So what do I do?" I asked. She held my gaze. "For now," she said. A pause. Nothing. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. My husband is dead, I said. You were part of it. There's a driver who doesn't exist, and someone else pulling strings, and you're telling me to do nothing? Her voice stayed even. I'm telling you to stay alive. That was the first thing she said that felt real. Not calculated. Not distant. Just real. And you? I asked. What about me? Are you safe? A flicker again. Then it was gone. No, she said. Honest. Simple. No. We sat there in silence after that. Two people in the same room. Connected by something that no longer had a name. Not family. Not trust. Just truth. Unavoidable. Heavy. Finally, she stood up. I shouldn't stay long, she said. Why? They watch patterns, she replied. Of course they do. She moved toward the door. I didn't stop her. I didn't follow. My body felt rooted in place. She reached for the handle. Then paused. Without turning around, she said. If you think you know the people closest to you, think again. The words settled slowly. Then she opened the door and left. Just like that. No goodbye. No apology. The lock clicked softly behind her. I stood there for a long time. Listening. To the quiet. To my own breathing. To the absence of everything I thought I understood. Eventually, I walked to the window and pulled the curtain back just slightly. The street looked normal. Cars passing. People walking. Nothing out of place. But now I knew better. I stepped back and let the curtain fall. The apartment felt different again. Not empty. Not watched. Occupied. By something invisible. Something patient. I looked at his phone on the table. Then at my own. Then around the room. Everything was still where it had been. But nothing meant the same thing anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't break. I just stood there. And understood one simple thing. This wasn't the end. It was just the part where I finally saw the truth. And the truth was quiet. Cold. And still waiting.